Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about the Black Phone 2022. There are full spoilers for the Black Phone 2022 in this content. So, the Black Phone is a Blumhouse horror film. Just came out in 2022. It stars Ethan Hawke. I'm a big fan of his. I think he was in the Magnificent Seven, which was a fantastic film. I really, really enjoyed it. It's one of the recent remakes. I'm a huge Western fan as well, but I'm a really big fan of Ethan Hawke. Gattaca. He's done a bunch. Oh, the best thing he ever did was Training Day with Denzel Washington. He's incredibly talented. He's also Uma Thurman's. Him and Uma Thurman are Stranger Things season 4 Robin character, Dungeons and Dragons, Dungeons and Dragons message carrier, Stranger Things 4. Robin, the character Robin, Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman are the parents of the actress who plays Robin in Stranger Things 4. I'm a huge Ethan Hawke fan. Very, very talented actor. And actually, I will say this. I actually don't go to see Blumhouse horror movies. I do see just about every single horror movie that A24 puts out. And A24, really kind of lit a fire under my butt to see more horror. I consider myself what's called an art house horror fan. I don't like slasher flicks. I do not like, I kind of grew up in the, kind of the golden age of horror films. I don't like any of the Friday the 13th. I don't like any of the Nightmare on Elm Street. Final Destination meant nothing to me. But A24 was like, hey, what if horror was really smart, very carefully crafted, and just hit, right? And not just slasher flicks, but smartly written horror. And so I've really grown a taste for it. And when I saw it, and I really didn't even, and the reality is, I really don't see much Blumhouse stuff. I have a lot of respect for their model. Make them cheap, and distribute them well and make a profit. Right? I'm a big capitalist, so I got a lot of respect for Blumhouse. But I will say it right now. The poster and Ethan Hawke got me in this movie. I did not even watch a trailer, right? Because I saw the movie poster, and the mask was terrifying. The title was very impacting, and it said Ethan Hawke, and I'm like, I'm in. So this is how I watch movies. Increasingly, if anything hooks me in a trailer, or even before I see the trailer, I won't watch the trailer because I know I want to go in and I want to experience the film. So 5 out of 5 star movie. I highly recommend this movie for any dungeon master over 18. There is narrative gold here, right? This is a extremely well-crafted tale. You are challenged with bringing extremely well-crafted tales to your Dungeons and Dragons table every single week, right? And if you're honing your craft, you're watching the best in every genre, right? And so, highly recommend going out and seeing the Black Phone. But I know a ton of you aren't. That's totally okay. And here I go. I'm going to spoil the whole film for you. And the reason why is the Black Phone has a lot to say about one specific Dungeons & Dragons class and one specific Dungeons & Dragons spell, and we're going to talk about them both. Let's talk about the Black Phone. Oh my gosh, this movie was super scary. It was terrifying. And so just be aware, if you're... And honestly, it wasn't super gory, or it was just this... Everything it dealt with was very, very scary. And, Blumhouse makes a lot of movies. They know what they're doing at this point. And this thing was extremely well crafted, and it really hits, right? So it is the story of really the story of 3 primary characters, and then less than 10. The entire cast is 12 people, right? It's tight. The film is very, very tight, right? And okay, so here's what happens. It's the central figure is a junior high boy by the name of Finney in 1976. That's 2 years after Gary Gygax released Dungeons & Dragons 1974. So this is a period piece. It takes place in America, in middle America, in 1976. So Finney is a junior high American student, okay, in junior high, right? And so in his area, boys have been being abducted, all right? So Finney has a sister named Gwen, okay? So it's Finney and Gwen, and then the last main character is the Grabber. The Grabber is I'd say a 50-year-old, I would say a 50-year-old child kidnapper and serial killer. That's what he is. He kidnaps only boys. He puts them into a black van by asphyxiating them, and then he puts them into his basement, which he soundproofed and cleared of almost any and all things that are usable, right? And so what he does is he abducts these junior high boys one at a time. He throws them into his basement, which is like, a carefully crafted terror zone, like a prison for these junior high boys. And then he works himself up over weeks or months of keeping them in this prison, and then kills them, right? And then buries them, and then repeats the process a few weeks or months later. It is really, incredibly dark subject, right? So Finney gets abducted, and then but before he gets abducted, him and his sister are just walking back and forth from school, and going through school. By the way, Gwen, his sister, is an elementary age student. She's like in maybe 4th or 5th grade, okay? And then Finney I think he's in like maybe 7th or 8th, maybe as low as, about 7th or 8th grade, right? So here's where it gets interesting. All right. So 5 other boys are abducted and are never found. Their bodies are never found. They're never returned before Finney is abducted. And so everyone in the town is talking about this, and they're trying to find this killer, right? Who is the Grabber. He's known as the Grabber. And that person is played by Ethan Hawke. All right. So the Grabber is snatching up these boys. He throws them in this basement, and then he works himself up for weeks or months, and then he kills them. Terrible, absolutely horrible, terrible, just straight villain, right? Like just like horrible villain, right? A monster, actually. Monsters come in all shapes and sizes today, and this is a very clear depiction of a human monster, right? So, so you're seeing all this happen, right? And these boys are being taken, and Gwen, Finney's sister, before he's taken, she tells one of her friends in junior high that she had a dream, and that she saw a man taking one of the missing boys, and that there were black balloons around the boy, right? So the police come to the school and interview Finney's sister before he's abducted, and ask her about the black balloon and say, hey, how did you know this? Because this other girl talked, and it got back to the police, and they said, how do you know this? Like, we didn't release this fact to the public, so how did you know this? And she's like, well, I didn't know it was just a dream, right? Well, here's the thing. So now we get to talk about Gwen and Finney's father. Gwen and Finney's father is a drunk, and he's a very terrible father to them. But we find out that Gwen's mother had dreams where she saw information that was being given to her through these dreams that were also clues to solve crimes, right? But rather than work with the police, she tried to act on these clues that were given to her in her dreams, and it all turned to tears and flames, and she killed herself, right? And Gwen's father is insisting to her, your dreams are just dreams, you're not getting any clues, so forth. So here's where it touches. So I'll tell you the end of the movie, and then I'm going to talk about the D&D part, where what Black Phone points to in Dungeons and Dragons, and why, and how we need to process this. Specifically, Dungeon Masters need to process this for one Dungeons and Dragons class and for one Dungeons and Dragons spell. All right. So what ends up happening is Finney is abducted. When he is abducted, He has the same power as Gwen, but not through dreams. He is able to talk to. So basically, Gwen is getting clues about the killer through her dreams. Finney, who has the same power as his mother, right, who gets supernatural clues, is able to talk on this black phone that rings in his cell. Right now, this basement is a horrible place. Right, it's just a like an old mattress on the floor. There's a toilet, and the killer brings down like one meal a day for Finney. Right, he feeds him. Excuse me. He feeds him eggs, and he gives him a Sprite lemon lime soda, which we see in the old glass bottle because it's 1976, and I'm like, boy, that's the weirdest product placement I've ever seen. But product placement shows up everywhere nowadays. Boy, we live in a strange world. So basically, Finney has the same supernatural power as his mother, same supernatural power as Gwen, but it's manifested a little different. He's able to answer this broken phone. Okay, it's called the black phone, and it's in his cell, and it's an old broken phone that no longer works, right? And they literally show us that the wires are cut, right? And it's frayed, and it's super old, and it doesn't work, right? But it rings, and Finney answers it, and each one of the 5 boys who was abducted, and now we understand, killed by the grabber, they talk to him one by one, and they say, hey, here's what I did to escape. Here's what I did to escape. And, and I'm going to tell you all the progress I get, all the progress I made, and I'm going to give you clues to get out yourself, right? So what ends up happening is the ghosts carefully protect Finney, right? Gwen continues to have these dreams, and she finally breaks down and just calls the police and says, hey, here's all the clues I got from my dreams, even though her father is telling her, your dreams aren't real, right? So finally, the police, take her seriously, and they go to the house, and we think that Finney's going to be rescued, but the house that she found is the house where the killer buried all the boys, not where her brother is, right? And so basically, but that makes it so that the police believe her, and they do find the 5 bodies of the kids that the grabber took. By the way, the mask the grabber uses is absolutely terrifying. It's like a devil's mask. It's in 2 different parts, and he wears it in different ways. Really creepy. Really, really creepy. So basically, and so essentially, you get this. So Gwen finds out where all the bodies are, right? But then her brother has to escape on his own, right? And so what he does is he takes the information from all the ghosts that were given to him, and he builds a trap, right? And so what he does is he uses the small, there's actually, it's a big main room, and then there's a bathroom. And so what he does is he digs a big hole, he puts carpet over it. There are some few remnants of, leftover carpet. He puts the carpet over the hole, and then he uses a grate that he pulled out of a window, and essentially what he does is he makes a pit trap, Dungeons and Dragons, for the grabber. The grabber falls into the pit trap, breaks his ankle, and can't get himself out of the pit. And then Finney uses the black phone, which he packed with dirt because one of the ghosts told him to, and then he uses the old, tough cord, and uses the phone like a whip and literally bludgeons the grabber to death, right? And then literally walks out of the house, right? Creepy as all get out. Tight, solid film. Extremely well crafted. And one of the things I think that we can learn as Dungeon Masters from the black phone is you don't need a whole lot of complexity, and you don't need a ton of... Well, that's not quite true. I think the grabber was quite complex, and Finney was quite complex, and so was Gwen. So there was a lot of complexity in the actual people in the film. But you can tell a tight story and can have a lot of solid impact, right? And this is just a way to, the black phone is It's a fantastic movie from start to finish. And by the way, when Finney bludgeoned the grabber to death, there were I was in a theater that had about 100 seats for 100 people. There are about 50 people in this, and this is like 2 or 3 weeks after it released. This is not opening release week, and everybody just clapped and was super excited when when he escaped. It was very responsive. So you definitely want to catch this film. It really hits. It's solid narrative quality, right? And that we all need to learn that. We are honing our craft, to be better than Hollywood and to bring better stories for our tables than Hollywood can bring to the world, right? So, what does this teach us about Dungeons and Dragons? Well, it's a completely different look on one specific class, and that class is Sorcerer. Okay, so Finney and Gwen have powers. They got those powers from their mother, okay? It is in their blood. Dungeons and Dragons talks about magic very carefully, and it says, hey, magic comes from 3 sources. Persistence, right? Using your intelligence, your wisdom, and your charisma to pursue magic and unlock the arcane mysteries of the world. Or it comes from your bloodline. Sorcerer, it comes from your bloodline. It comes from your blood. You inherit it, right? And last is bargaining, right? That's the warlock path, right? So the Black Phone looks at, what if you have supernatural powers from your blood, from who you are? Now, Dungeons and Dragons is like, ooh, all great, level 1, level 2, level 3, woo, yay, roller coaster ride of superpowers, right? And that's been really fun for 48 years, right? But the future of Dungeons and Dragons is turning the keys and turning the knobs and getting a different solution, understanding the different frequencies. And this movie goes, wait a second. Okay, you got superpowers in your bloodline. Maybe that ain't great, right? And this movie really has us take a look and say, hey, okay, we know you got superpowers, but most people don't understand these powers, right? And it's going to be very frightening for them. People aren't going to trust you, and people aren't going to listen to you, right? And so so the Black Phone tells us maybe you need to take another look at Sorcerer, and maybe the stories you're telling with Sorcerer are a little too simple and a little too naive, right? In addition to that, we need to talk about the spell Speak with Dead. Generally, right now, because we're still at the very inception, right? We've only had Dungeons and Dragons for 48 years. We've barely unlocked the surface on what this thing can do and what it means and who it's for and how it's going to be used, in my humble opinion, right? But generally right now, when we look at Speak with Dead, we're like, oh, hey, Speak with Dead, that's kind of cool. We're gonna, get this little mystery solved, and it's really quite complex. Because this is saying, hey, Speak with Dead is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. They're not wrong. It is terrifying. Check out Black Phone. It will really make you think twice about Speak with Dead and the Sorcerer class and rethink the stories you're telling with those. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.